The planet is heating up.
The oceans are becoming filled with plastic.
Change starts now. Change starts now.
We're on a countdown
To zero waste. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the Zero Waste Countdown Podcast. Here's your host, Laura Nash.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zero Waste Countdown Podcast and Radio Show. I am interviewing today Lindsay McCormick. She is the founder of Toothpaste Bits. Now, if you're into the zero waste movement, you have probably found out that normal tubes of toothpaste are a big problem in our life because they can't be recycled. Now, there are some alternatives, such as making your own toothpaste, which I haven't had very much success with. I find it doesn't taste very good, and my kid is not a fan of making his own toothpaste either. We did find a zero waste store that sells it in our jars, but it's 3 hours from our house. And of course, the other option is to get those tubes. So Lindsay has an alternative for us. They are tabs that you bite down and then brush your teeth with. So she's going to tell us all about it coming up on the Zero Waste Countdown Podcast and Radio Show. Thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us.
Of course. I've been listening to your podcast and I was like, oh, there's so many great interviews and tips. I definitely wanted to be a part. It's awesome what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we've had some incredible guests on the show, and there are so many people just like you with such a good story who are doing so many amazing things to help the world, because toothpaste tubes, there's really nothing you can do with them, right, except for throw them in the trash afterward?
Yeah, you can try to recycle them, and that's what they like to say, but no one does. They always get thrown out. You'd have to cut them open, and they get recycled, and it doesn't happen. So they end up in landfills or the ocean, and it's 1 billion toothpaste tubes a year worldwide. And they're made of that super thick plastic. They have a wrapper around them as well. So it does a lot of damage to the environment and surrounding with those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a shame, really, that we have to be using these things. And of course, there's a toothbrush movement. So if you're listening and you're into the zero waste movement, some of the early beginnings for a lot of people is to start thinking about that toothbrush, and then you start thinking about the toothpaste. So you have an awesome solution for us. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your alternative to the toothpaste tubes.
So I was traveling all the time for work, and I was using those little toothpaste tubes that you can get through with TSA, and I was throwing them out, and I just all of a sudden envisioned one day this, tower of toothpaste tubes in a landfill, and I was like, this isn't right. Like, I've done so many things in my life to, stop my consumption of plastic and to mitigate this and that. It just seemed like, how did I not make that connection, And so I started looking into alternatives, and I wasn't in love with anything that was out there. There was tooth powder, but that was also sold in plastic, mm-hmm. or I didn't like how it tasted, or it was really messy. And then there were other tablets, but also in plastic. And I was like, I feel like there's something to be done here and to make it more sustainable. And so I started experimenting, and it started with I tried a million different things that didn't work, and then finally started kind of honing in on my formula and just trying over and over again until I was starting to press out tablets that I was happy with, that were going to be effective, and that could be pressed in a tableting machine in my living room, actually.
Wow.
So,
how did you think about the tablets instead of a paste? Because that's quite a shift, right?
Yeah, well, it started with the idea of, how do I get this out of plastic? And so if it's going to be a paste, I just felt like it would be really hard to get that out of glass. Like, I knew I wanted a glass container, and I was like, okay, so what can go in a glass container? And so there was powder, but that was kind of a disaster. It gets everywhere.
So messy.
Tablets were really the only natural option at that point. And so that's kind of how it all started, of just being like, how do I put this in glass or something that's infinitely recyclable?
It's so smart. And what I love, too, is that you have this refill program, because I love glass, but I've said this before, that glass will last for thousands of years, too. So I try to be careful with, just purchasing tons and tons of glass, and I try to reuse them. So you've actually made this possible, that we can reuse our glass container, because you ship out in cardboard. Is that right?
great about glass is that it can go from recycling back to shelves in 30 days. But the whole point of what we're doing, I feel like, is, recycling is great, but reusing is top priority, And so I would look at these like well-made, like you look at even just like a pasta jar where you're like, this is such a nice thing. And just to throw it out or recycle it right after it, I was like, why don't we come up with a way to just keep on reusing these? And so right now, originally, it was a glass bottle with a cardboard refill pack, and now we're actually using a glass bottle in the 4 months with a compostable refill packet. So basically, your first 4 months, you get a 4-ounce jar of tablets, and then from there on out, you'll be getting a compostable packet full of tablets. So you never have to, that can be the only bottle you'll ever need.
That's so amazing. And I feel like you've thought this through so much, because this is obviously kind of what we're missing a lot when we have a business plan. It's like, what do we do with the end of use? And you're like, here, I've got all of these solutions for you. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. It's like I love figuring it out and trying to just always improving and making it more eco-friendly and sustainable. Because for me, my background was in TV. I wasn't a business owner. I didn't do any of these things. And so the real reason I started this company was because I saw something that we were doing that seemed, kind of crazy to me, just throwing out these toothpaste tubes, and I wanted to solve that. So every decision that I make is really putting the environment first. And that's kind of something that I definitely stick to as the company continues to grow and scale.
Awesome. And your ingredients are quite healthy too, right?
Yeah. So basically the 3 main ingredients are dicalcium phosphate, xylitol, and erythritol. And the great things about these is that they've been basically proven in dental care to be effective, but they're also not terrible for the environment. When you look at hydrated silica and you look at some of the other stuff that the big guys use, they're basically using the cheapest ingredients possible that are not, in any way sustainable or necessarily even the best for our teeth. And so I did a lot of research. I actually started taking online chemistry classes myself through open source websites, and I talked to every dentist and dental hygienist who would talk to me, trying to figure out what is an option and what is the best thing that we can do that's not only effective and safe for us as people, but also not as harmful to the planet.
Right. And included in that, your product is vegan, and I saw that you don't test on animals either, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's something that that's always been, I'm personally vegan, so that's something that's always been just part of my ethos. So that was no question. But then when I started looking into traditional toothpaste and the requirements, it's just, I didn't even realize that was a thing, that animal testing was happening with toothpaste. So that was something that I was like, well, absolutely no, we're not doing that. And so that's a very important part of the company as well.
And what's the Leaping Bunny certification?
The lab that we have our tablets manufactured, it's a woman-run solar-powered lab in Los Angeles. I couldn't have been more over the moon to find them, and they are Leaping Bunny certified. So they are the ones. So I do want to eventually get my Leaping Bunny certification to be forward-facing on that, but at least I know that all of the ingredients they've sourced and everything that they do to keep their Leaping Bunny certification, that I have that going for me as well.
So that certification is just that you don't test on animals and the products are vegan? Is that what it's all about?
Yeah. Yes. So the Leaping Bunny certifications is that nothing is tested on animals and nothing is derived from animals, from the vendors and the actual ingredient vendors.
Cool. So you have a lab where everything's made now. So what was it like starting off in your living room? Because I've watched your video, which is great, by the way. The video makes me so hopeful for the world. It's so well done. You're using these machines. Were those in your living room? Because they're pretty big machines.
Thank you. Yeah, they're huge. It was one of those things that one thing led to another. It was first I bought this little tiny handheld machine, and then I was like, this doesn't work. Then I bought a hand crank machine, and then that wasn't bigger. And the next thing I know, I have this huge piece of equipment in our spare, office kind of rec room. And I was just like, okay, I guess this is where we are now. So it just kind of kept on getting bigger and bigger. And then finally it got to the point where I was like, I think I need to bring the pros in on this to be able to keep up.
And so you get the pills sort of pressed, or not pills, but tablets, sorry. And then you put them in your mouth and you bite down, and then does it foam?
Yes. Yep, exactly it. You pop it in your mouth kind of like a Smarties, what I say. It's like similar to, you bite down, and when you start brushing your teeth with a wet toothbrush, it'll activate. We have a natural foaming agent that it will activate and start foaming just like what you're used to with regular toothpaste, but without parabens or sodium lauryl sulfate.
Wow, that's very cool. Yeah. And then obviously because the ingredients are so safe and healthy that it's, it's definitely fine to be putting in your mouth and down the drain and all that stuff. So
yes, absolutely. And that was one of the things that was really important to me too, to know that we're not doing damage to the water system as well. So that's, all of our ingredients are that as well.
That's awesome. And then you've got the subscription service, which is fantastic because I'm all about not shopping as much as I can. Like I try and grow my own veggies and jar stuff and stay away because the grocery stores are a little bit depressing for me because that's where I see everybody put like one pepper in a plastic bag and then they put that plastic bag with the pepper in another plastic bag to carry it out. And I'm
unreal.
Like, this is madness.
What have we done?
Exactly. Yeah. So the subscription would be awesome because, toothpaste, it's usually like a drugstore that you have to go in and everything is plastic in there too, or the grocery store. So it's kind of nice to have that subscription service. But then there's something like you use regular roots or something like to try and even make.
So that was another part of like my obsession is figuring out, because if we're going to be delivering these to people, right, we need to make sure that we're not like negating all of the work that we're doing by using, like having a huge carbon footprint. So we chose to go with the USPS, which is they in the US they do like their regular postal routes. So no matter 5 days a week, I think it's maybe even 6 days a week, every single day the postal worker is going to come by your house, and that is just already predetermined. So we use them as opposed to private companies where the route is created just for you. So the way we kind of explain it is like it's like the public transit of the postal system, because they're all it's just hitching a ride on routes that are already happening, as opposed to actually having a driver put your package in his car and bring it directly to your house, or from the thing to your house. So that's something that I had to definitely go back and forth and do a bunch of research on, and then decide that was the course we were going to use.
That's awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And I see that you're just available in the U.S. right now. And actually, more than half of our listeners are American, so that's super awesome. But for the rest of them, is international shipping coming anytime soon?
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're working on it. That was one of the things that we wanted to be able to. When we first started, we did have international shipping, and that is the goal. I want to be able to get Bite to everybody who wants it. But we just need to figure out what is the most reliable as well as eco-friendly way that we can do it. And we were finding that they were not happening, the public transit situation. And, and I just wanted to make sure that we were doing everything right and sticking to our ethos as a company before we expand again internationally, to stick with how we're trying to keep things very eco-friendly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we are totally planning on doing that soon.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's tricky when you start factoring in airplanes and stuff like that. So maybe it would be a franchise option where you set up the machine in a different country and then it just ships right from there.
We're looking into those. I think we're thinking after the holidays, when kind of all this craziness is done, we're gonna really hone in on how do we do this, and how to make this the best way possible, and still be able to deliver product all over the world and mitigate our footprint as well.
This is so much work for just you. Do you have partners?
So my boyfriend is working with me right now. He works in tech startups, and he's a really talented designer. So he's been helping me. That we kind of had a website overhaul a few weeks ago, and that was him. It's way better than my little Shopify template that I was using previously. And I also have a girl up in San Francisco who's helping with customer service remotely. But that's it. That's our team. We're small but mighty.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so much work. And, I've just been so amazed by people like you, and then Lynn Frisinger from Swedish Stockings, and Melody Reynolds from Elite Cosmetics, and I mean the list could go on of these women, and of course like there's men out there too that are doing this too, or any gender, but it's just so amazing to see people take on so much and take a problem and then make a business out of it. And we hear a lot in the news, we can't fight for the environment or you're going to lose jobs. And I don't think that's true, because there is so much opportunity for entrepreneurship and for people to create businesses that are doing good things for the world.
I think to the world's credit, I really think that people are waking up. And I think that a lot more people, I don't think that the idea for Bite could have existed 5 years ago. I don't even know if it could have existed 3 years ago. I really feel like in the past, year or so, or even 2 years, there's been this huge push where people are like, what are we doing? And they're willing to spend that extra money, because that's the thing too that I learned with building Bite. It's like, when you want to do something different that not everyone's doing, and you want to continue to use the best ingredients and continue to research and source, it's not as cheap as what's available, And so when you have people who are willing to take a chance on a new product and pay a premium for that, as we all try to get off the ground, it's so inspiring to me that regular customers are doing that, And so, and I think that what it really does is, by them supporting these small companies, it kind of shows the big guys, maybe there's a market here. And it's I think all of our goals is to just keep pushing industry, no matter where we are, in a more sustainable direction, And I think that by showing there's a market for this, and by doing that, we start to really make an impact on the big guys who are really running everything. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for this time.
Yeah, and as economies of scale increase, right, things will get a little bit cheaper eventually, as you can start buying in bigger bulk to make your products. So it's all a process. And Colgate here in Canada refused to do the program with TerraCycle, I heard, where you can send in your toothbrushes and I think toothpaste tubes, because they do it in the US. I don't know if you've heard of that, but if you have that toothpaste tube to get rid of before you make the switch, Colgate wouldn't, just said there's no interest in Canada. So that's kind of too bad. So there's another reason
Which is so crazy to me, because I have so many people from Canada who are I want to buy, when are you selling it? I'm
good.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And when we were able to ship internationally, when we were shipping that, so many people were from Canada. So there is such a movement up there. Wow. So that's unfortunate. But, it's that kind of archaic way of thinking, I feel, it's on the outs, and I think that customers are proving that.
Yeah. Zero Waste Daniel said the funniest thing to me. He said, you can still be a capitalist and do the right thing.
Yeah, that's very true.
I know.
That's very true. I believe there's so much opportunity for people, and there's so many problems to solve. And there's so many, ways of the status quo that can be questioned and made more sustainable. And I think that anybody who wants to tackle that, and now is the time. You can set up a thing on Shopify, you can send things out yourself. It's a really great time to start a business, and it's a really great time to try to solve these hard problems that we're all facing.
Absolutely. That's so well said. So, Lindsay, I would like to know a little bit more about you. So you said that you were traveling a lot and you just realized, I need to stop throwing these toothpaste tubes out. So what else do you do in your life that's zero waste?
So that's an awesome question. I am a firm believer that it's the little things every day. We like to say, every little bit counts. So everything from just having, I have this water bottle that I carry around with me every single place that I go, all of the time. So I never have to worry about buying a plastic water bottle, or not being hydrated, and everything from replacing Saran wrap to just all of the little things, the everyday things that we touch. And I think that it's intimidating, but it's, my Tiffins. I bring them to restaurants. And it's
nice.
The first few times you feel ridiculous, when you ask them to get it put in there. But people are great. I really feel also that the whole straw movement has really helped, because now it's when you ask for no straw at a restaurant, everyone gets it. And then when you bring out your Tiffin, it's okay, well, clearly this is their lifestyle. And I think that it's more being prepared and not feeling ridiculous for asking for these things, And I remember when I first brought my little glass, my glass tumbler, I guess is what they're called, to Starbucks, you feel so weird. But then it's like after the first few times, it's like people don't even, it doesn't matter anymore, you know? And I think that those are the kind of things of just the everyday audit of what can I do differently. So that's something that I try to really, really hold to. And I think that what's helpful about that is that when you're in line at Starbucks and you see one person do it, even if you don't know who they are, you start thinking like, I could do that too, you know? And so I think that that's something that I try to do.
Oh, that's so good. That is a hard thing to break into. And I don't even like doing it now too much. Just bringing your own container and asking someone who's never been asked before if you can get your food or your drink in there. And we went to a little winter festival here a couple weeks ago, and I just brought a regular mug from our cupboard, like just a regular coffee mug for my kid, because I knew they were going to be giving hot chocolate out to kids. So I was like, okay, Ronan, you can take this and go get your hot chocolate. And the women were like really confused, like they weren't sure how to fill it up.
I love that you did that. Yeah, it's amazing. And you know what really works too is, you know, sometimes the whole point is not consuming. So they're like, well, if I have to buy all this stuff, what's the point? But it's like, you can just bring mason jars. You can honestly bring a mason jar to Starbucks or whatever coffee thing, and there's ounces measured on it. Like they can see like what it's supposed to be. And then you have a little top too. So you don't even have to, and it's, you know, it's like you can get fancy and have those little tumblers with a cute top and everything, or you could also just use a mason jar. Like,
you know, I've always been afraid to use a mason jar because I thought it would get hot on my hands.
I guess I'm just kind of used to it, but it's not so bad. Like I even drink like hot tea out of a mason jar, like boiling water tea out of my mason jar, and it's like maybe you hold the top at the very beginning, but then as soon as it cools down to a point where you can drink it, you're fine. Oh yeah, and it's just like getting over the fear of feeling weird. Oh, and getting like changing out your purse to be big enough to hold all that stuff, you know, because it's like it doesn't do you any good thing at home. So now it's like my little tiny purse that I used to be is now like a messenger bag, you know. But it's like it's fine. I have my stuff. It's okay, you know. So like the more you carry, the less you're throwing out, I guess.
That's the issue with glass, is that it can be heavy sometimes. And I bring glass everywhere. I bring glass jars to restaurants in case I have leftovers. I bring them to, you know, bulk shopping places everywhere. And it can be a little bit frustrating. So it'd be really nice if there is like a bag maker who could just design a bag where the inside has like these places for jars so that they're separated and they're not like clinking around. And I think that would be really nice.
That's a brilliant idea. That can be your business idea.
Yeah.
You can make them and sell them on Shopify. You know, I think that's a really good idea, because then they won't be clanging all around and getting all over.
Right.
Getting everywhere.
Yeah.
And also, or bundling all in one corner and making the bag all lopsided. That happens too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And so I always take, like, I have these cloth bags where I put like rice and beans and stuff in at the bulk store. So I try and like separate my glass jars with those.
That's smart.
Yeah, but it would be nice if the bag like held it. And also like forks and knives too, if you want to take those around. But it's funny you said the thing about the straws, like how good of a movement it is, because it gets people thinking. It's like the tip of the iceberg. It's the start of why am I drinking out of garbage, right? And the cool part is, like, I have a metal straw, and then I'm like, why am I carrying this metal straw around? Because I'm not going to buy a garbage cup anyway, right?
Right.
So I just don't even use my metal straws, really, because I wouldn't buy that garbage cup. And anything I buy, I typically can just like drink out of. But some people need straws, and some people just prefer them. So they're super awesome to buy the bamboo straws or the metal ones. Right. I tried a paper straw for the first time, and it didn't disintegrate. I think I probably drank my drink too fast, but they were fine.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a nice thing. Like, I know in LA, Malibu totally banned plastic straws. So now it's like a lot of times if you don't ask for a straw, like they just don't serve a drink with a straw, which is so great. And then if you do ask, like there's people who are like, I'd like a straw, it's a paper one. And I just think that that's such like a common sense way to deal with things. And I think that it's good for bar and restaurant owners too, because they're saving money, and they're saving, you know, they don't have so much trash. So I think like those kind of common sense solutions are pretty pretty great and a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And it's always kind of like shocking when I like am out of LA or go to a restaurant and I forget to say no straw, and then you're like, no, and you're like, I am not in Los Angeles anymore. You're like, oh, I will forever carry around this straw as like my guilt for the next 2.5 weeks for not saying no straw. So I think that's, we all, there's always, it's like you try the best you can, I think. Sometimes as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the different areas who are super into it. Like I was in Wyoming this summer, and everywhere I went, there's just so much like garbage at the restaurants, and I thought that was weird. Why is it that California cares so much? Is it because California is so beautiful and people learn to respect like what's around them? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know. We're all a bunch of hippies. I don't know. It's also, I think that like it is the fact that the state is just so, up north you have the forest, and along the coast there's the ocean. I also think that it's like a really big, and don't quote me on the stats, I have no idea, but I feel like it's a really big transplant state, and a lot of people who move, because like I'm originally from Virginia, but I think like a lot of people who move there kind of have similar mentalities of, eco-friendly and, animal rights and all of these things, and so I think that also is kind of a reason that's there.
Yeah.
We all become Californians, but we most likely started somewhere else. But like the mindset drew us there. That kind of then just continues to cement that mindset, I think.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's a great place for people like me to live. There's like vegan options on every corner, and they're pretty progressive when it comes to waste as well.
Yeah, I even heard actually California was thinking about introducing a law where restaurants had to have an option. I'm not sure if it was a vegan option or a vegetarian option on menus, but I thought that was cool.
Yeah, you know what? I read that too. I scanned the top of that article, so I didn't actually read it.
Me neither.
And I think it also included like lunch programs for kids.
That's cool.
Which is just awesome. That's like so great. Because I remember like I was trying to be vegan in middle school in Virginia, and my options, like I literally remember my lunches being French fries and Skittles, because that was the only option at it. Because it's like you're too old to like bring a lunch from home. You don't want to do that. But like those are my options, and I was like, that's crazy. So yeah, it's any step in the right direction, or any step in that direction is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and with more and more kids are doing that, it's very important that kids get the right balance of everything they need.
Yep.
And so if you're cutting out meat from your diet, you need a lot of other things like beans and legumes and like just healthy stuff. So yeah, like everything, right? And so you can definitely do it, but you have to do it right to make sure that you're healthy. So French fries and Skittles are a bit far from
maybe I've been like 5 inches taller. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. I find Australia is really, really into this stuff too. So I feel like Australia would like to probably buy some of these.
I know. Okay, it's
bits.
funny. So Australia, like Canada, Australia, and like a lot of UK, I feel like they are very represented in people who are like, we need this here. So, and that just goes to show me, I'm like, okay, wow, there are pockets in all over the world of people who are really trying to make these differences.
Oh, isn't that so nice? Well, this is so great to learn about this. And I always say like nice things about people and their businesses, but I feel like I get so fired up every time I talk to someone like you. Like, it's just so nice to hear what you're doing and that you're making something that can like save us all, really. Like, you don't really think about your toothpaste tube, but then once you think about it and you think about everybody else's toothpaste tube, it's a massive, massive problem, right? So I feel like you've just solved like a world problem. And I really hope that a lot of people buy your stuff, and I look forward to trying them one day. You know what? Me and my kid have trouble making our own because of the baking, is it baking soda? I think it's baking soda. Yeah. So my kid just won't use them with baking soda, which really sucks. Like I will, but it's like gross.
Right. And it's like, and I get like baking soda is great because I've like nerded out on so many of these dental studies, and baking soda is like so good for the pH in your mouth. It like restores it, and it's good. It's a good thing, but man, that taste is really hard to combat. So when I was doing, when I was formulating Bite, that was one of the main things. I was like, I want to be able to make sure I have this because I do know it is good. It does balance the pH of your mouth. It is an important thing, but like it's brutal tasting and you can taste it all day. So that's why it's definitely xylitol and erythritol based to kind of combat that and have that mint flavor. And sweet flavor as opposed to that telltale baking soda taste.
Mm-hmm. So did you have friends over and like sit around your living room and brush your teeth?
Oh my God. So it was funny. Not only did I do that, and like every friend of mine like ended up with so many different types of bite, and like it did not start off tasting how it does now. Like now I really I love how it tastes. But like when I first started, I was like, this is good. And they were like, no, this is not good. Like this tastes terrible. I was okay. And it was funny because my boyfriend was actually, he had a company that was being run out of the house that we were living in as well. And I would make them try like 10 different types of toothpaste or, tooth tablet powder every single night, being like, what do you think of this? What do you think? It was to the point where like they were like, we can't taste anything anymore. We have no idea. Like it just tastes like mint. Like, okay. So it was a process, and I have very patient friends.
Oh, that's so awesome. Is it mint number 5 or mint number 342?
I'm like, do you like it with a little bit more spearmint or peppermint or what? They're like, Lindsay, we don't know. Sweet orange oil or no, we don't. Okay. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so awesome. That must have been a really cool process for you to develop this. And your reviews are great, and the video is great, and the website's awesome. So I'm so excited for this. So if you're in America, you can sign up and you never have to worry about getting those toothpaste tubes again, which is super cool. And
if you're in Canada, we're working on it soon.
Yeah, which is super awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for doing all that you do. And thanks for coming on the show. And yeah, I look forward to trying it sometime.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Laura. And again, right back at you. I appreciate the interview.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was Lindsay McCormick, all the way from LA. She joined us to talk about her company, Bite Toothpaste Bits. If you like our show and want to help save the world from all this trash we're consuming, please consider donating to the Zero Waste Countdown. You can become a patron on Podbean, you can find me on Patreon, or you can donate right on the website, zerowastecountdown.com. And if you're interested in seeing a photo of our guests, you can check us out on Instagram. That's _waste_countdown. And if you want to email me, it's laura@zerowastecountdown.com. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thanks to all our listeners in America, Canada, Australia, Germany, the UK, and wherever else you may be tuning in from. Together, we're going to change the world.
Change starts now.
This is the Zero Waste Countdown Podcast.